And 8 U.S. soldiers are dead after 2 U.S. Chinook helicopters went down in Afghanistan. Welcome to NewsCenter at 9:30. I'm Chad Walling.
And I'm Casey Cavalt. A ground assault with Taliban and al-Qaeda forces has killed 9 members of the U.S. military. CNN's Elaine Culano has more.
Defense officials say up to 9 Americans are dead and dozens of others were hurt after a weekend of intense fighting in eastern Afghanistan. Fighting that included 2 separate cases of U.S. helicopters encountering hostile fire. In the first incident, U.S. military officials say it was enemy fire that forced down a Chinook helicopter similar to this one. Once on the ground, crew members were caught in a fierce gun battle. U.S. Central Command says at least 7 Americans were killed.
The forces on that helicopter got off the helicopter and immediately came in contact with the enemy force, and that is the place that the casualties came from.
The crash happened in the mountains of eastern Afghanistan near the city of Gardez, where U.S., Allied, and Afghan forces continued an intense attack that began Friday night. Hundreds of Afghan soldiers supported by U.S. forces moved into the area, and for the first time, the U.S. used thermobaric fuel-rich warheads capable of filling tunnels with fire. The assault targeting pockets of al-Qaeda and Taliban forces holed up in the remote terrain.
They're determined, they're dangerous, they will not give up without a fight.
As the fighting continues, Pentagon officials say another U.S. crewman died when he fell out of a second Chinook helicopter that came under attack. President Bush, on a visit to a high school in suburban Minneapolis, expressed his condolences.
And so we sent teams in, and there's some serious combat as I speak, and lives are lost. And we send our prayers and tears to those whose families have lost life.
As for the whereabouts of Osama bin Laden, today defense officials said they have no information to indicate that bin Laden is hiding in that area of eastern Afghanistan where fighting is now taking place. In Washington, I'm Elaine Quijano. Now back to you.
2 are dead and 13 people are wounded after a Palestinian gunman opened fire on a nightclub in Tel Aviv. The fighting is the latest in the never-ending saga of violence between Palestinians and Israelis. Earlier today, 16 Palestinians were killed in Israel as Israeli raids, including the wife and 3 children of an Islamic militant leader. Israeli fighter jets also bombed Yasser Arafat's headquarters in Bethlehem, but no one was killed. Israel says it is retaliating for suicide bombings and shooting raids that killed 22 people during the weekend.
Egyptian President Mubarak has offered to host an Israeli-Palestinian summit. The peace plan is the latest proposal among Middle East countries. Saudi Arabia has also proposed a peace plan, but the Palestinians refuse to discuss the plan unless Yasser Arafat is allowed to attend an Arab summit in April. Israel has prevented Arafat from leaving his compound in the West Bank town of Ramallah. A statewide radio network may soon be effective if lawmakers can find a way to pay for it. The network could help police and fire departments communicate if terrorists were to strike Indiana. Construction of the network could cost up to $90 million, and officials estimate that maintenance and other costs could total up to $250 million after 20 years. The radio network is part of an anti-terrorism bill passed by both houses of the General Assembly. According to the House version, a portion of BMV transaction fees would be used to help pay for the network. But the money allocated for it was eliminated by the state Senate before approving the legislation. The legislation now goes before a conference committee where the House and Senate negotiators will try to compromise between the 2 versions of the bill.
Restructuring the tax system and balancing the state budget are the biggest unfinished issues for Indiana lawmakers. The Democrat-controlled House and Republican-controlled Senate each passed plans to restructure taxes, but settling them won't be easy. The major difference is that the Senate plan does not include new tax revenue to close a projected billion-dollar state deficit. House Ways and Means Chairman Pat Bauer of South Bend sent the tax and budget bill to a conference committee today, but it could be Wednesday or Thursday before serious negotiations begin. Lawmakers will concentrate on the issues as they head into the final 2 weeks of the legislative session.
And Indianapolis Mayor Bart Peterson is threatening to sue the Department of Education for charter school funding. Peterson wants the department to begin financing charter schools this fall, but lawmakers denied a bill that would have required the department to pay back first semester expenses to the schools. As of now, charters will not receive funding from the state until January of 2003, the same time as public schools, which supporters say could prevent them from opening this fall.
And a lack of tax on free casino rooms is costing the state more than $2 million. Indiana's 8 casinos regularly try to boost business by offering free rooms to regular players. Casino representatives say the potential tax collections do not amount to much when compared with the hundreds of millions paid by floating casinos. Opponents of the practice say it hurts non-casino hotels that give away few rooms and struggle to compete with casinos. Casino companies are not required to report just how many free rooms they provide for free. But Indiana's top gaming regulator estimates they make up at least 30% of the room occupancy during the week, and even more on the weekends.
Former Christian Academy principal says he will not admit he made sexual advances on 2 students if a plea bargain is offered. Gregory Chopyak was charged with 2 counts of sexual battery in May of 2000 and is set to receive a 1.5-year prison term. Chopyak will enter his plea on March 18th. If he pleads guilty, the charges will be reduced from felonies to misdemeanors and change his sentence to 30 days of house arrest.
And having an 18-year-old run for county sheriff may seem a little odd, but that's the case for Justin Roots, who is running for the Hamilton County office. Current Sheriff Joe Cook cannot run for re-election after finishing his 2nd term. Cook says the Carmel High School senior's candidacy is disrespectful to the department. Roots says, however, he's mainly out to raise voter awareness and draw young viewers to the May 7th Republican primary election due to low voter turnout in recent years.
Ball State received little reaction from their anti-smoking policy from students. Students will not be able to smoke inside residence halls starting next school year. Associate Director of Housing Kathy Bickle says there are less incoming freshmen who smoke and more students who request smoke-free halls. The Housing Department says this will increase fire safety and decrease the cost of maintenance. Right now, 8 floors on campus allow smoking.
Spring break is next week for Ball State students, and most are heading south. Our reporters Ben Pettingill and Stacy Williams had a chance to catch up with some students earlier.
I'm going to Las Vegas. We bought a school bus and converted it into an RV, and we're driving over there.
For spring break, I'm going back to the Philippines to visit my family and friends. I get a round trip for very little money.
For spring break, I'm going to Panama City with a bunch of the girls. We're all just going to hop in a car and drive down together, and then I think it's going to be about $520 for the week, so I'm looking forward to it.
My aunt works at a hotel, so we got a hotel room that's like $239, and we got it for like 30 bucks a night.
I'm going to New Orleans. It was a deal found on Expedia.com.
I'm going to Panama City. Should be fun. I'm going with my parents.
Orbitz.com makes it easy for students to find low prices for lodging and airfare to your desired spring break vacation spot. And here are just some of the rates for Panama City Beach next week. And we're now joined with Ryan Miller for the weather. Ryan, spring break, as we just mentioned, is next week. Is it going to be warm, or what do you have for us?
It's going to be really great out there. Kind of coming up, though, just in this next week. Today's high, 19 degrees. Almost want you to break out the snowsuit. Friday, though, you may want to break the shorts out. Look for a high of 60 degrees on Friday. Isn't that crazy?
Oh,
What's it going to be like tomorrow and even into the weekend? Stick around. I'll let you know just a little bit later on.
Okay. Thanks, Ryan.
Sounds great. And from our partners at the Ball State Daily News, here's tomorrow's headlines tonight. UPB makes changes in the handcuff procedure. Ball State student is arrested for obstruction of justice, and he was also charged for drinking and illegal substance. And SGA-elect Talawame appeals for fines for 2 incidences. Find this out on this and other stories on the Daily News tomorrow.
And most Muslims have an unfavorable opinion of Americans. But how do Americans feel?
And there was another scare at the airport in Los Angeles.
So, return to a news center at 43 in just a second.
A new CNN USA poll shows that most Americans have an unfavorable opinion of Muslim nations. CNN's Bruce Morton reports.
The Americans in our poll don't think the United States is at war with the Muslim world, but 7 out of 10 of them say the Muslim world thinks it's at war with the United States.
I have a favorable opinion of Muslim people, but I have an unfavorable opinion of Muslim countries because of the leadership that is currently installed in most of these countries.
Americans lopsidedly believe that U.S. military action in Afghanistan is justifiable. A Gallup poll of 9 Islamic countries last week showed they don't. Americans have a very favorable opinion of President Bush. The Muslim countries don't. The people in our poll said they don't know a lot about Muslims. Over half of them said not much or almost nothing.
I'm sort of neutral. I don't know anyone who's Muslim.
Asked, do you think the Islamic religion encourages violence more than other religions? Half of our sample said no, but a third said yes. How many Muslims admire Osama bin Laden? Roughly a quarter said most, almost half said some, and 23% said only a few. Are you angry at Muslim countries? 29% were, 69% were not.
There are radicals in all walks of life. You just can't narrow it down to Muslim countries or non-Muslim countries or anything like that.
Americans think Americans are friendly, trustworthy, and arrogant. 68% said that. Muslim countries agree only on arrogance. Americans think Saudi Arabia is not trustworthy, not friendly, and is arrogant. Most Muslim countries agreed the Saudis are not trustworthy and not friendly, but didn't see them as arrogant. Finally, people in our poll say the U.S. and the West respect Islamic values and take fair positions in the conflict between Palestine and Israel. Muslims lopsidedly say that's not true. But Americans remain optimistic, saying the unfavorable views Muslims have of the U.S. are not based on what America has done, but on misinformation. If only they understood. Bruce Morton, CNN, Washington.
Hundreds of passengers were evacuated after airport security at the Los Angeles airport found a fake grenade on a security scanner. A Washington official says the grenade was an apparent gag gift for someone. 3 flights were canceled and 21 were delayed after the fake grenade was found. The Los Angeles mayor hopes charges will be filed against the owner of the fake grenade. The mayor says the delays affected airline transportation across the country. The passenger has not been identified but is in federal custody.
And the help wanted sign is out as transportation officials look for more than 30,000 security screeners. This is another attempt to help make airports a little safer for everyone. Transportation Secretary Norman Mineta says the first of the new screeners could be at work in airports by April or May. Workers will get 40 hours of classroom training and 60 hours of on-the-job training. Mineta says he's committed to hiring the best and the brightest to fill these positions.
Top figure skater from the Olympics, Sarah Hughes, now has the key to the Big Apple. New York City Mayor Mike Bloomberg gave the 16-year-old Long Island native the honor as well as let her ring the opening bell at the New York Stock Exchange today. Despite her newfound fame, Hughes is set to return to classes at Great Neck North High School on Wednesday. So, how's the weather going to look like later this week?
Well, you know, it sure as heck felt like you could go ice skating today. Will you be able to go ice skating, though, in the near future? Stick around. I'll let you know right after the break. Well, what a cold day we had out there. Good evening and welcome back to NewsCenter 43. Here's the weather almanac for today. As you can see, well below our normal high of 42. Just topping out at about 19 here in Muncie. Today's low, 3 degrees. Woo, very chilly out there. Normally we see 25 though. If you'd like to get up and watch the sun rise tomorrow, you should head outside a little bit after 7 o'clock in the morning. To watch it go down, you should head outside at about 6:38. Going on to our next map, you can see some of the highs for around the state today. Evansville topped out at 30. Excuse me, Terre Haute came in at 24, Indianapolis at 22, South Bend up there in the north came in at 13. They actually saw a low today of -3 degrees, so definitely a chilly day up there around Lake Michigan. And like I said, Muncie in at 19. Currently here in Muncie, got a couple flurries falling, just some very, very light stuff though, nothing really to get concerned about. It is getting a little warmer out there, believe it or not though. 19 is actually the high for today, like I just told you. That's currently what it is now, and that should be getting warmer as the night goes on because of those clouds that are going to be blanketing over us. In fact, let's go ahead and go on to our next map. Right now, here are those clouds that I was just telling you about coming over Muncie. Now, those clouds are going to act just like a blanket does when you go to bed at night. When you put the blanket on, you stay warm. Well, those clouds are going to trap the heat in for the earth. Acts just like a blanket, and those clouds are actually going to stay with us for the next day or so. In fact, you can see those clouds all the way out past Illinois, and really those are going to stick around for the next couple of days. Maybe even see a little bit of precipitation from them in a couple of days. Let's go ahead and go on to the next radar image. There is that snow that's falling very, very lightly. Really nothing to get too worked up about, nothing to be concerned about at all. Just going to last for, probably until about 3 in the morning or so. After that, it's going to go away and not going to be something that we need to worry about for the next couple of days anyway. In fact, let's go ahead and go on right now. Tonight, we've got this dome of high pressure up here. That's really what's going to be affecting us tonight, as it's being a lot stronger than this dome of high pressure down here. It's going to provide enough uplift that we're going to see lots of clouds tonight and that snow that's in there. So tonight, looks like Muncie is sitting right there on that line between the 20s and 30s. 30s for much of the southern Indiana, a pocket of 20s out there across, let's see, Utah and all those states out there, along with Ohio and Pennsylvania. Here in Muncie, though, well, not going to be too bad of a night out there. Looks like we're going to see about 27 degrees out there. So let's go ahead and go on to our next map if we could. Not 27, sorry about that. Look for lots of clouds, but a temperature of 22 degrees with wind out of the southwest at about 15 miles an hour. Tomorrow morning when you wake up, those clouds are going to be hanging around. Temperature of 25 degrees, though, with wind out of the southwest at about 14 miles an hour. Tomorrow, not a whole lot going on. This dome of high pressure is really what's going to be affecting us, although we are still going to see a couple of clouds. Go ahead and go on to that next graphic if you would. You can see 40s for much of it, actually for all of Indiana, except for down there by Evansville, where you're actually going to see some 50s if you are down there. So go ahead and go on to that next map. You can see tomorrow should be a little bit warmer, Chad and Casey. Really not too bad of a day. High of 42. And for that NewsCenter 43 official 3-day outlook, if I can get untangled from all my cords, the next couple of days look just absolutely magnificent. On Wednesday, partly cloudy. Friday, we could see some rain, though, with a high of 60.
Okay, up and down roller coaster.
Yeah, the warm temperature sounds really good.
Thanks, Ryan.
It's my kind of weather.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot. We're now joined with little Jason Matthews with sports. Jason, this is my type of year. I mean, March Madness coming up. What do you have for us?
That's right. Well, we have both our men's and women's teams starting the MAC tournaments here pretty soon. I'll be back with that and more right after this break. The Ball State men's basketball team pounded out an 81-77 win at Central Michigan Saturday afternoon, which gives the Cardinals their first ever outright Mid-American Conference West Division championship. Ball State is guaranteed a number 2 seed in the MAC tournament and has earned a first-round bye. T. Smith led the Cardinals with 22 points and 14 rebounds. Chris Williams pitched in 17 points, while Robert Owens and Matt McCollum both put up double figures. BSU will play Miami of Ohio, who beat Buffalo this evening 71-60 Thursday in the MAC quarterfinals at Cleveland. The Ball State women's basketball team had a few members win some awards over the weekend. Junior Tamara Bowie has been named to the All-Mid-American Conference first team, while senior Shayla Crook was an honorable mention selection. In addition, Kate Endress has been named to the 5-member All-Freshman team. Bowie, the 2001 MAC Player of the Year, becomes the first Ball State women's basketball player in school history to earn back-to-back selections for the All-MAC first team. The women's next game is Wednesday night against Eastern Michigan at the MAC tournament in Cleveland. Former NBA player Jason Williams may be getting more than just a day in court. When he makes his appearance in a New Jersey courtroom, he will hear a judge outline the charges against him in the shooting death of a limousine driver at his home last month. Prosecutors are expected to present the case to a grand jury in the next few weeks. The charges could be upgraded if the grand jury finds Williams showed extreme recklessness. Ball State University sophomore Brad Snyder has been named this week's Mid-American Conference West Division Baseball Player of the Week. In BSU's 4 games last week, Snyder sparked the Cardinals at the plate with a team-high 7 hits for a .412 batting average. He also had a team-high 7 runs, 7 RBI, 2 home runs, 13 total bases, and a mammoth .765 slugging percentage. Snyder was also the only BSU player to get a hit in all 4 games last weekend. The baseball Cards' next action is Friday at Kentucky.
Okay, sounds good, Jason. Thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, the astronauts are now making a spacewalk.
And we'll have one more weather day up for you next when we come back to NewsCenter 43.
If you're headed out tonight, take a coat. It's snowing out there. Going to be really cold as well. 22 degrees with lots and lots of clouds. Wind out of the southwest at 15 miles an hour. For tomorrow, it's going to be a little bit warmer than it was today. High of 42 with wind out of the west at 15. Partly cloudy skies.
Thank you, Ryan. And astronauts are making repairs in the Hubble telescope. A new solar panel was installed that is expected to improve electrical efficiency. Miles O'Brien has a report on the progress.
Oh, wow. Beautiful view.
For spacewalker, astronomer, and self-proclaimed Hubble hugger John Grunsfeld, it was an encore performance. He logged 2 walks outside the Space Telescope in December of 1999. Back then, Hubble was out of commission after some gyroscopes failed. This time, Hubble is working fine, and Grunsfeld is leading the repair team, hoping to make it better.
Hello, Mr. Hubble, the telescope.
To that end, he and his spacewalking sidekick, Rick Linehan, ventured into the void to give Hubble a new solar wing and more than a prayer for added amperage. The old solar arrays on Hubble for 9 years rolled up like window blinds and were a bit temperamental. The new version is rigid and is 2/3 the size of the old wing, and yet produces 20% more electricity. On Earth, it weighs more than 600 pounds, but in the absence of gravity, Linehan and Grunsfeld appeared to have no trouble attaching it to Hubble. The only bothersome moment came as Linehan tried to attach the old array to Columbia's cargo bay. A bulky bolt refused to cooperate, but finally unfroze.
Okay, it was about 1 3/4 turns and the inboard bolt NTL slip at 23. They're both complete.
And that set the stage for the solar panel deployment. The new wing unfolded like a book, hopefully opening a new chapter for Hubble. Miles O'Brien, CNN.
Joining us for NewsCenter at 9:30, I'm Chad Welling.
And I'm Casey Cavalt. NewsCenter 43 is an official CNN Student Bureau. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for NewsCenter at 5:30. Good night.